We're all works in progress. Join me, Jen Hart, as I wander creator spaces across the U.S. to meet artists, musicians, makers, and creatives of all kinds, to hear their stories and to find out what inspires them. We'll also play a game of 10 questions. Keep track if you like, and we'll count them up at the end. The nice thing is that the only one that can really lose this game by not getting to 10 is me. And we all get to win by meeting some seriously talented people. I can only see good things coming. Food carries memories. Maybe it's because there's a smell attached, and typically that sense has a strong connection to memory. My conversation with Chef Aziza Young and her story behind the muse that inspired her originally to make delicious, beautiful culinary creations took me back to some of my favorite smell memories growing up. My family also loves to cook, and the gathering would always happen in the kitchen or around a picnic table if it was a large group of us. We were often found on the weekends at my grandparents' house, crowded around picnic tables with burgers or hot dogs after swimming all day. My grandfather liked to put cocktail sausages with barbecue sauce in a crock pot for an appetizer. We'd eat them with those little sword toothpicks. My cousins and I even had a song for those little beanie weenies that I won't scare you with, but I do still remember it and love it. The smell of an omelet cooking in a pan and the sound too reminds me of my dad. Omelet night was Dad's night, and to this day, he is still the best omelet flipper I have ever seen. Food is a bridge to fond memories. It's a comforting pal on a rough day. It has the power to heal. Okay, I have one more, and this one is because it's one of the times I have definitely laughed the hardest in my life. Kool-Aid will forever remind me of a day when two little girls were sitting on the floor joking around, and one of them, I won't say who, laughed so hard that she spewed Kool-Aid in a fantastic array of polka dots that landed somewhat disorderly on the other's bleached white shirt. By some miracle, we didn't die laughing afterwards. Sorry about the shirt, Christy.
This has been quite the adventure this year with the Artist 10 podcast. Our next guest creator brings something truly delicious to the table. Really, because she's a chef. And not just any chef. Aziza Young, or Chef Z, as she's also known, is a business owner, a private chef. Her first restaurant made it on the top 24 best restaurants in the western suburbs. And she's appeared on shows such as Food Network, Chopped, and Hell's Kitchen. Chef, welcome to the show.
How are you?
I'm great. I am so stoked to be talking to you right now. I was telling you a little bit before the show, my husband's also stoked that we're doing this.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this episode.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up. Good.
He's all about.
I'm excited. I'm very excited. And thank you for wanting to talk to me. So
Yeah, absolutely.
This is great. Thank you.
Absolutely. So you have a pretty robust resume. Like, I feel like I mentioned a couple things, but man, when I was looking through your bio, I was just like, holy moly, like you've done so many things. How are you feeling at this point in your career? Because it feels like, for me, from an outsider, I'm like, man, this girl has made it. Like, she's doing her thing. But I know as an artist, you're always kind of like looking at that next thing. You're always trying to grow and find the next thing. So how are you feeling right now at this point in your career?
I feel good. I'm very grateful for the accomplishments that I have achieved so far. You know, when you look in hindsight, like I recently started looking in hindsight, like how things have just progressed and how far I have come, and like, oh, wow, I did do that. I'm so done with that. But before that, it was just like you said, we just keep moving.
Yeah.
We just keep figuring out, all right, let me do this. And how am I going to do this? And I'm still doing that,
Yeah.
I'm still very.
Got that fire. You're
I
still.
do. Well, it's because, we're here, I believe, that we're here to explore life and have fun in life,
Yeah.
And I don't like being stagnant. I love to continue to move. I love to continue to push myself and push my boundaries and see, what I can do next.
Yeah.
So right now I'm just going with the flow,
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
continuously just going with the flow.
I love that. I love that idea of exploration. I feel like that's really at the heart of being an artist and a creator, right? You're always kind of an adventurer figuring out your next thing.
Yeah, you figure it out, see if it works, and if it doesn't work, then if it didn't work the first time, maybe you can go back and revisit it, but revisit it by revising it and seeing what does work. And if it doesn't work and you find a different niche, then there's nothing wrong with it. It's always
Continuous.
It is, because that's what we are as people. We're onions.
Yeah.
We're just not one thing. We are a multitude of things.
Do you think that that's kind of a pretty good metaphor of how your career's evolved then? So like I read a little bit before the show about you, and you've owned a catering company, you've been a partner at a restaurant, a business. You've been on multiple shows. You're a private chef now. Like, has that all kind of been a culmination of the things you've learned, or like, how do you think you've how do you think you've come to this point? Like, from all that, like, was there something that you could take away from each of those things that got you here, you think?
Definitely. So from let's see, I started cooking in people's homes when I was 20, but I didn't do it full time. I would just serve at a restaurant, cook at people's home, drive a trash truck, or drive a school bus. I had different jobs.
Doing what you had to do.
Exactly. It wasn't until my 30s that I really started diving into the restaurant industry, learning every management. Was a front of the house manager, back of the house manager, everything.
Did you have like an epiphany moment where you were like, "Hey, I can do this for a living"? Like, because
well, I always knew I could do it for a living.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do it for a living at such a young age because I didn't want to get burnt out.
That's a
Yeah.
very progressive, smart thing to
Yeah.
think.
I did not want to get burned out. And from what we're taught from our parents and grandparents, was when you get a career, you stick to it for the rest of your life. So it's just like, well, if I'm going to stick to something for the rest of my life, I'm going to start later.
Yeah.
And
you're like, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, no, because I enjoy cooking, and I don't want what I love doing to turn into something I don't.
Yeah.
So, but after 2020, the year of the pandemic, and
changed a lot for a lot of people, I think.
It did. After I founded People's Kitchen, after a friend of mine had reached out and we then started Everybody Eats Philly.
Yeah.
It was just like, all right, well, what else can I do to expand what I know, as far as food is concerned at that point. So, and it was just, and I had met so many people.
Yeah.
So then networking came into play,
right.
And meeting. And
did you know you were networking, or was it more like it was just kind of naturally happening? It seems like in that kind of situation, you're.
At first, it was, you're networking. You're networking, but at the same time, you're working.
Yeah.
To actually go to a networking event is different than being at work and networking. Going to networking events, I'm just like, ugh.
There's a little, everybody knows why you're there,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. So it's just like, I have to give a bio to everyone, and it's not a bad thing at all, but it's just different, but it's just, like I said, when you wind up meeting people, and the more people I met and the more stories I heard and people I talked to, was just like, oh, and you just start creating, you just start doing more stuff. And like I said, not necessarily because, honestly, I did it because I wanted to do it. It's because it's fun. I want to have fun.
For sure. Yeah, you want your day-to-day to be fun.
I
love that. Do you think, so you had said, when you were younger and like in your 20s, you had like a fear of your passion kind of becoming something like a little bit of a drudge, right? Mm-hmm. So like, now having experienced what you have, are you kind of like, ah, maybe I should have started that sooner, or do you think you're right where you should be? Like,
No, I believe I'm exactly where I should be. You
For
know,
sure.
when I was younger, my focus was also on my family. You
Yeah.
know, they were on my
So
kids.
important.
Yes, I have 5 kids,
Oh my
and
gosh, you do.
and
Okay.
yeah,
You're Wonder Woman.
yeah. So when they were younger, I really wanted to focus on
Yeah.
them. I always wanted to be a mom. And you can always have a career. I always believe you could have a career at any age. You know, there's no
sure.
age where you have to start your career.
Yeah.
You know, as long as
I
you
agree.
start it. So, no, I'm
The hardest part.
It is.
Starting is the hardest part. for sure.
Exactly. And then staying motivated to continue,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I knew I wanted children. My last son I had when I was 26.
Oh.
Well, I'm saying 26, 36.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
had it when I was 36. And someone actually said, they was like, well, what about your career? And I was like, well, I can always have a career. I was like, I can't always have kids. I can
Right.
always have a career. I want to have all the children I want. And I didn't have all the children I want, which is great. 'Cause I wanted 10.
Oh wow.
So-
You were ambitious at home. I'm
Yeah, so I had my 5, but
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to have my children first because I know once I start focusing on my career,
Yeah.
You
were gonna dive in.
I was going to dive all
Yeah.
the way in. So no, I'm happy that I had all the experience that I've had.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I drove a trash truck. I had my commercial license. I knew how
Sure.
to do a whole bunch of things.
Oh my
you
gosh,
know?
that's
I was
awesome.
a nanny. I've done so many things prior to being a full-time chef. So
Do you think too? I always find this like has been interesting in my own life too. That those jobs that you didn't think you were like, I just got to do this because I got to make money and take care of myself and my family and get it done. You do learn things from those jobs that transfer into the rest, like what you're going to do next. Like you're not even aware, but like necessarily maybe at the time, especially in your 20s, like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah,
you know, you're just like wandering, like, okay, I'm going to go here and do this thing. But, you
get
pick up
nowhere.
skills.
You
They're all
do.
skills and they're all transferable. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's so. I tell my boys that now, and even my kids. And when I substitute that, because I also substitute that in schools, in
Yeah.
Philadelphia schools and in the county schools, and I tell the
In your
students,
spare
I say,
time. And all that spare time that you have.
I'll
Love
cut
it.
some days.
Yeah.
I'll cut some days.
You can
But,
make time. You're making time.
Yes,
for
I
her.
do, because I love it. I
Yeah.
love working with young people. I love seeing what's in their head, how they think.
Do your kids
so-
like to cook too?
All my children like to cook.
Okay.
My 22-year-old, he enjoys cooking.
Mm-hmm.
My 22-year-old enjoys cooking. My 16-year-old, she loves to bake.
Yeah.
And the rest of my children, they cook because they're hungry, but they know how to cook. So,
Okay, all right.
So I make sure all my children know how to
Baseline.
cook. Yes. So and if they want to be creative with something, and they say,
Yeah.
"Mom, can you get these ingredients? I want to make this." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem."
Do you have you been inspired, like, because you're creating dishes for people? So have you ever been inspired by something your kids cooked at home that you brought into your career life
Definitely.
as well?
Definitely. My daughter, a few years back, she made grits and she put Old Bay seasoning in it.
Oh.
And I was like, this is good. Now, and so I tweaked it, and now I have my Old Bay grits.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh my gosh.
that I make for people, and
That
people
sounds
like it, but
awesome.
it was inspired by her. Just her putting the seasonings in there, it inspired me. My other daughter, so that was my daughter, Sylvie. My daughter, Umi, she's very much into Asian cuisine, and
Yeah.
so am I. And she'll share certain recipes with me. And there were a few that she shared with me that I tweaked and I cooked for my clients.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I'm like, well, Umi came up with this, you know. And I'll tell people, like, my daughter came up with this, you know. They inspired me, you know,
Yeah.
to do this. So from their inspiration, I then, create something. So
I love that so much. That's so cool. So it's like cyclical, that flow of inspiration, you know?
yeah.
Do you, I was wondering, I kind of want to go back for a moment because they mentioned something and my brain perked up when they said it, that you have to keep, when you're, trying a new thing, or when you're trying to kind of figure out your next move, you have to find ways to keep yourself motivated. And I'm wondering how do you do that? Because you are very busy, and you're not only, I just learning now that you're a mom also. So I'm like, wow, like you already have all these incredible things going on in your career, but then you also have an incredible family at home that you're taking care of and that they're integrated into your life and you're making time to go to school. So how are you feeding your well in between all those things? Or maybe those things do feed the well. I don't know. I guess that's my
So, how do I stay inspired to continue? What I'm
and
doing?
motivated to keep, when you are tired or like when you have a day, because everybody has those days where they're just like, oh man, I just need a nap.
For one, my greatest motivation is I don't want to work for anyone.
Yeah.
So it's like I can do what I do and work hard, or I can work for someone else and work hard for them, and I don't want to. So
Yeah.
honestly, that is my biggest motivation.
Yeah.
I don't want to be on someone else's schedule, someone else's. I
That's
want to create my own schedule, create my own time.
Is that your favorite part about being a business owner? Is being able to like kind of craft your own day?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the greatest part. I'm not stuck in the kitchen all day and talking to people and making sure that I've done it before and it's fine, but I don't want to do it.
Right. I did my 10,000 hours.
Yes. So it's like I love being able to talk to people. I love being able to talk to you.
Yeah, this is so nice.
So
talk all
and
day.
create events and be a part of different events, but just also have time to study. Like I just finished my dissertation, so once my dissertation
And
done, I'll
she's
be
going
done.
to school. Okay. What else are you hiding?
Yeah, just I'm getting my doctorate in metaphysical science.
That's very cool.
So and then I'll be going back to school for neuropsychology because I just like how the brain works. And
Psychology is so interesting.
it is.
Oh my
it
gosh.
is, and how the brain works and science has always been very intriguing to me. I've always loved science and whatnot. So going back for that and quantum and all the other stuff, quantum physics, it's just I wanted to stretch my brain. If we only really use 10% of our brains, I want to see how much more of my brain I can use.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I'm fundamentally like why, for me personally, I think why I started this podcast was because I love learning, like getting into another artist's brain and just like learning what fires them up and their inspiration and what motivates them. And also just, I like, so you talking about how psychology is like really inspired you and made you interested in that. I'm totally on board with that. I can totally relate to that. But I also, from this, I will say like one of the coolest things is just like, I'm always, every time, it never fails. I'm always like, I come in already like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. Like, I can't wait to talk to this person. And then throughout the interview, I'm always like, holy, I'm like, they are doing so many things. Like, this is so cool and so crazy. And I feel like kinship a little bit because I was always that kid that couldn't stop. Like, I was always doing something, right? Like, my mom's like, you never sit still. And I'm like, can't be involved. So, yeah. So I always love I always feel a kindred spirit with the creators on the other side of the table for me. It's really cool to learn that and to know that you're just thriving. Like it just seems like the more you take on, the more you're thriving. So I love it.
well, thank you.
At least from an outside perspective.
Oh, that's what's so good. In my head, I'm just like I don't think I do enough, and then I sit back and I'm like, but you are doing stuff, and it actually takes effort to not do anything.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort to sit down and say, you can stay in the bed until 2 o'clock today, or 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock.
Because you feel like you should be up and doing
exactly.
something.
I feel like I should be up and doing something, and then it's just like, no, you are supposed to be. Saturdays and Sundays are usually my chill days, but mainly Sunday. And Sundays I will. This past Sunday I did not want to get up, and it was just like I was trying to push myself, and then my other self said, "Child, you worked all week. Sit down." And I was like,
You're like, you're right.
"You're right," but I could, right? It's just like you don't have to. You don't have to do anything.
I know, it's so funny how maybe you've learned more about that while you're doing psychology in school, but like I feel like those, like, I don't know if it's not really a self-limiting belief, but it's like that guilt of like not, or fear of missing out. Like you're like, I gotta keep moving, but that rest time is so important.
It's
I feel
very
like, and when your body or your other brain is telling you like you need to chill for a minute, like it's good to listen to that. I feel like because otherwise, that's where that burnout comes in that we were afraid of.
Yes, it's either
Before.
the burnout or the I wish I would have.
Yeah,
I wish
for
I wish I
sure.
did sit. And
Yeah.
then you go back and then you say you should have done it, and now you start talking bad to yourself, which is something a lot of people do, which a lot of people have to get out of.
Yeah,
doing,
that's
you
a
know?
terrible habit.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get out of your head though sometimes. Like if we're almost always our own worst critic, you know.
Always.
So that's do you think that's I think that's I was gonna ask you if you think that's particular to artists, but I don't know, maybe I'll ask that question. What do you think?
Honestly, I don't know. I think that's every person, period, regardless if you're an artist or not. And that's because, when we're kids, we're taught certain things, we're taught, we're taught by our parents, we're empty vessels.
Yeah.
We're children, you know what I'm saying? And depending on what type of parent you have, I have very strict parents.
Okay.
Where you have to be doing something all the time, otherwise you're being lazy.
And it programs your brain.
Yeah. So now at the tender age of 44, and I started giving myself grace, when I was 40.
Yeah. Building that muscle up.
Yes. So, but it takes all that learning that got done has to be unlearned. You know?
And it takes a long time sometimes.
It does take time.
And also like maintenance, right? Like that it has to be a habit of like
you have to just be conscious when you start talking to yourself like that.
Yeah.
Recognize
Shut
that you
them
talk
down.
to yourself like that and say no.
Uh-huh.
We're okay.
Yeah.
We're fine. This is okay for me because I'm not being lazy.
Right.
I'm resting, and that is okay to rest because my body needs rest. And my brain needs rest.
I have a friend, Tanya McIntosh, shout out. No, her and I always talk about this kind of stuff, and we were talking one time, and I think she told me that like when you have those negative thoughts or like that fear mongering happening in your head, it's like you're driving the car and you got to tell that other voice to sit in the back seat because they can be in the car, but they don't get to control the radio. Like they're not talking, we're talking.
Exactly.
So, like, and I love that because it's just like they have to be in there because it serves a purpose too sometimes, like that the be careful voice, it's like that same voice, right? But if they're in control of the radio all the time, then nothing would get done. You'd just be afraid to do anything, right? So but yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's so important for, like you said, for everyone, because everybody's got ambition, and whether that's, creative related or just, helping other people, or their career, or their family. So there's fear attached to all those things. So
it is because people are afraid of failing,
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
people,
sure.
Or people, or depending on what your relationship is with the word failing, people are afraid of it. They're afraid that they fail, that they're not successful, and it's like it doesn't mean you're not successful. It just means that it didn't work this time.
Yeah, there's something else you got to learn.
Yeah, something else you have to learn, and that's okay, because if we knew everything, then you wouldn't be achieving anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you have to learn and grow.
Do you remember? Because I feel like this far into your career, like at some point you failed, right? So
a lot of times.
Like, do you remember a particular time that was like hard for you and how you like overcame that?
Particular time that I failed that was hard. Yeah.
Put you on the spot.
Because I'm trying to think of a time. I'm trying to feel because I may not be able to remember, but I may be able to remember a feeling.
For sure.
A time that I felt that took a hard time to get over. But honestly, I don't. Not as far as career wise, no. As far as career wise, no. I don't think there was a time that I felt that I feel bad, and I think it's because I'm grateful for for those experiences.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
You know what I mean? So no, as far as like being a parent, uh, the only things that I'm working on now is the lesson. When I became a parent, I was piggybacking off of like how my parents made,
Sure.
in a lot of ways. And when I started parenting the way I want to parent, the way I identified as a parent, I then now had to go back to like my older boys because they're much older than my other children are 27, 22, 17, 16, and 7. So my 16-year-old, my 17-year-old, and my 7-year-old, they're getting parented differently than my older boys were parented.
Because you were just kind of picking up different skills along the way.
Exactly. And now that I'm more comfortable with being me, there is very different.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that honestly that I don't want to say I wish that I changed, because now I am the older boys, they also get to experience this mom.
Sure.
They just are experiencing her differently.
Well, and don't you think too, like different kids need different things too, right? So there's really no like right or wrong way to do it. I feel like, and I don't have any kids yet, so I'm also speaking as like a person that doesn't have kids, but it seems to me, as someone who knows a lot of people with kids, that every kid's very different and they all need a little bit different
Every
type
single
of
one
attention.
of your children are different.
So the learning, I feel like with that, it must never end, because every day is like a new opportunity to do something great for them, and they can do something great for you. It's still it's that cyclical thing we were talking about before with that inspiration.
Yes.
So
Like my children, they may be an extension of me, but they aren't me.
Right.
They're their own individual people, and they are not their siblings. They are totally different from their siblings. All 5 of my children are different from each other. So I look at them as, and then they're here to teach me just as much as I'm here to navigate and teach them, and navigate through their life. And help them choose the best possible situation for their life. So
that's I can't imagine much more of a growing experience than trying to raise a little human, because that's terrifying.
You learn so much. Definitely learn patience.
Yeah,
patience.
That I could use a learn them at.
Yes, and compromise. And when I was younger, when I was a young parent, I like the word compromise with your child was like, what?
You're like silly.
Compromising. Now it's just like, well, but let's compromise, because one, they're going to have to learn how to compromise as adults.
Sure.
And if I'm here to teach you how to live in this world and this society, then I should be your teacher too, not just your parent. I'm not your boss. I'm your parent. I'm here to guide you. So yeah,
it's just a different approach for sure. I was wondering. Also, like we've been talking about, your career and how you've navigated that with having a family and finding new things to be into and going back to school. I feel like people listening that are also interested in taking that career path are going to maybe be curious on how are you going out and finding clients, or did the client building part of that process, was it organic? Did it just kind of happen one at a time? Because I get asked that a lot in my career too, and I feel like it's always interesting to hear someone else's approach, because.
So my first professional client that I for, it was a recommendation.
Okay.
So he had a chef. He was football. He played football in Florida.
Okay.
And he had gotten drafted by the Eagles. And his chef down there reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, chef, you still in Philly?" I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "I have a client that's going up there that's looking for a chef." So when you meet your clients, you cook for them first and see if they like your food.
Okay.
And if they do, then they'll hire you.
Oof,
so
is that nerve-wracking?
And yes, at first it was. It's always like,
that
I hope
first
they
interview.
Like it. Yeah, it's like, I hope they like it, because my style of cooking may not be your take, and it's fine. I don't take it personal. So, but he liked it, and one of my motivations to continue to do it was I was working at a job one of the chefs there said, well, one of my friends said it didn't last. And in my head, I was like, I'm going to make it last.
Yeah.
You
They're
know?
like, you haven't met me.
Yes. I'm going to make it last. And then from there, you just get recommended, you know. From there, he recommended me to other players. And you just continue to keep putting your best foot forward.
So putting yourself out there.
Yes, putting yourself out there, going above and beyond, not getting stagnant, because sometimes people think or feel like, well, I made it so I can relax. And it's like, no. The relax, the word relax, don't relax and fall back and think that you don't still need that same work ethic. Yes, you have people trust you, so you don't have to, but you have to still maintain that trust.
Sure.
You know, so relax in a way like, yes, you got to that point. However, do not relax to the point where you feel like you don't have to maintain a certain etiquette, a certain amount of
you can't be
trust.
complacent.
Exactly.
There's
Definitely
still,
can't be complacent.
work to be had.
Exactly.
And it seems like that would be kind of self-defeating if there wasn't, right? Like if someone who wants to create, like that's, a chef creates. So there was no more chefing to do. I feel like,
well,
how boring.
it would just, yes. It's so creating and, like I said, building and maintaining. My worst fear is having to work with someone again, and like I said, and having, unless I wanted to, unless I really said, you know what, I want something different.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, it's like my motivation is, do I feel like going into the restaurant,
doing a pressure check
4 or 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and delegating and telling people don't do this, and saying I need you to refire this, and
you're like, hard pass.
Yeah. I will work my behind off doing this because I know what I'm doing.
Well, you seem to really enjoy it too.
I do.
Which you can tell, like, there's a passion behind everything you're talking about. So, I'm wondering if you can give us, like, I'm trying to think of like for the artists and creators that are coming up, like what they might want to like glean from you, because I feel like you're such a wealth of knowledge. What's like the juiciest piece of advice you could give a creator coming up that is interested in following a chef path, or maybe something someone told you that helped you a lot?
Honestly, I am grateful every single day. Stay grateful.
I love that so much.
Stay grateful. Know that you are where you are, and you're there for a reason, and you're only there for a moment. Everything is always a moment.
So crazy when you break it down. Oh man,
it is. Everything is always a moment of time, and everything is going to pass. Just keep working hard at what you want to do, and stay consistent, and believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. That is the biggest obstacle that people have, is having faith in themselves.
I agree with that.
And
it's easy to shake.
Yeah.
Like a little thing, like what seems like a little thing to some people can knock someone else right off their feet.
Yes.
So
it's like, you work this, literally my thing is, if I could work this hard for someone else, why can't I do it for myself?
Yeah.
And it's the fear that people have, but you can always get another job.
Yeah.
So why would so don't be afraid, or work on it. But if you can do it, if you can do it,
right?
So be grateful. Encourage yourself. Know that you can do these things because you're already. You're just doing it for someone else.
Yeah. Oh, words to live by. Write it down. Write it down. I really love that. That's. It seems like so like obvious, but when you say it out loud like that, it's like, wow. Okay. Okay. I have to ask this because you're a chef. What's your favorite thing you've ever eaten?
Ever eaten?
Yeah. Or maybe your favorite dish right now, if that's too hard.
Okay. I don't know what's the favorite thing I've ever eaten. I love food. I've always, my nickname as a kid was Miss Piggy because I love to eat. It really was. It really was. My dad, it was. And because I ate everything. So my favorite, I don't have a, my favorite cuisine used to be Italian food. And I still love Italian food.
Yeah.
But I also love Asian food. And I also Mediterranean dishes.
Yeah.
So I don't really necessarily, I don't have a favorite. I love
You're like,
food.
put it in front of me. And
Yeah,
I
like
will
if you
taste
put
it.
those three, if you put Asian, Italian, and Mediterranean food in front of me and Middle Eastern food, I'm going to eat. I'm going to be in heaven.
You're like, it's going to be
I
so
will
good.
be in heaven.
Buffet.
Yes, yes. So those are my favorite types of cuisine.
I love that so much. I have so many more questions for you. I feel like I could talk to you all day. I've like hardly asked any of the questions.
Yeah.
I've like just I'm just like, what? Tell me more. Tell me more about this thing that you. Okay, so there are a couple I want to make sure we get to those. So let's see. I asked you how you find clients, so I think that was a good for people watching this show. Oh, you know what? This is one I was actually really curious about. So I was reading that when I was kind of learning about you and your life and your career, that you started cooking when you were like 9 years old with your family.
My dad.
Okay, can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I love, one of my favorite things, this is for me, I probably ask it every time, so I'm sure people are going to get tired of me asking it, but I just love it. I love to know where that first spark of like, I like creating, like, came from when you were a kid. And I feel like maybe that wasn't it, but I would love to hear about that.
Well, no, it's okay. So when I was 9, my dad said, Aziza, I'm going to teach you how to cook because you're going to get married one day. You need to cook for your husband.
Okay.
And in my head, I said, well, I'm excited to learn how to cook because I like to eat.
Yeah.
So no problem. So
like you have your reasons, I'll have mine.
exactly. So he would teach me. Whenever he would cook, I would watch how he cooked. And my dad, we had like theme days. Like every Wednesday we ate hot dogs, you know.
Okay.
And then we had spaghetti night, you know. But then my dad would also create dishes as well. He would follow a recipe and create dishes. And he got that from my pop-pop. My pop-pop was a chef. And my pop-pop cooked. And we would have Sunday dinner at my mom and pop-pop's house. My pop-pop cooked and my mom baked. And so by the time I got to sixth grade, we had a garden. We had a project, and it was a sixth grade garden, and we had to plant vegetables.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. So that summer, I went home and I planted some vegetables.
Okay.
And when it was harvesting time, I pulled them out and I made a salad because at that time I didn't know how to cook vegetables.
Yeah.
Besides, you know, making a salad with it.
Sure.
Because we always had the frozen vegetables or canned vegetables. My parents never really cooked fresh veggies. But then I had all these vegetables left over. So I said, what can I make? And I wound up making what I called then a carrot burger. But it was a veggie burger. It was a vegetarian burger. And I told my pop-pop I was excited about it. And he said, well, bring it to dinner. And that was an honor for me because we weren't allowed to cook. You know, the only people that were allowed to cook in our family were the older people, and you weren't allowed in the kitchen or anything.
And so you like marched up there and
I did. I brought my plates, and everybody liked my carrot burgers, you know? So from there, my pop-pop, he was my muse. He was the one that always encouraged me. I would come up with ideas. I used to watch, why can't I think of her name? The chef, what was her name? Julia Childs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And whenever I would cook, I would talk like her. I'd be like, and I would come up with these funny recipes or these weird recipes, and I would call my pop-up and tell him, he's like, do it. You know, cooking, being a chef is about being creative and creating things. So he's the one that was my muse. He's the one that always that encouraged me, that inspired me to want to cook more, you know, because he got it. Yeah. You know, and he got me.
It sounds like he really was kind of the one fanning that, believe in yourself, do it. You know, you're lucky you have at least one person in your life that does that. So I'm happy that you did, because otherwise we probably wouldn't be sitting here, right? Like,
Definitely not. But yes, he was, the, he was the reason.
Yeah. Oh, he sounds delightful.
He was amazing. He was amazing. I love him.
Yeah.
I love
Well, thank you for sharing that. I like to do something. I don't want to be done. I feel like I literally could talk to you all day. So we'll have to maybe just do another interview at some
That would be
point.
fine with me for sure.
I do like to ask towards the end of the interview though, what we like to play like a little artist tag, and so if you can think of like another stir creator or a chef or a maker, there's no like rules on who it has to be just someone that critically thinks a lot, but like someone that you think would be great on the show, and we tag them in. So we like to do one in Philly and one from anywhere.
One from anywhere. So we have one in Philly and one from man. There's so much.
You can email me later if not. I put you on the spot.
I'm like, there's so many great people that I would want to talk, that I would want you to talk to. But honestly, so we're at Swathmore University, right?
Okay.
And the chef here, his name is Chef Rancy, which is funny because I was on Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, that
Chef
is
Rancy.
funny.
But the chef here, Chef Rancy, he does some amazing, like I love talking to him about the things that he creates. I was just here last month for a chef spotlight, and he was doing fermented garlic and all this, and I was just like, what? What are you doing? And curing eggs with honey and all, and I was just like, what? So honestly, I think I think I would definitely choose him as one person as well. They have a test kitchen that they just started, and he's teaching classes in there, and I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, so I know, can you tell us a little bit more about the test kitchen too here? So, because walking through there was super cool, and then we started chatting about how you're going to be part of a ticketed event that it's going to be happening in there. So can you tell us a little bit about that too, and then we'll get back to your other artist tag?
Well, they have this new test kitchen here, and chef, he's using it, like I said, to teach, but I was like, well, what else are they using it for?
Yeah.
And so I asked him, I said, well, can we host competitions? And not just for chefs, but for people that also enjoy cooking. So we're just working out the kinks with that right there. So
that's so fun.
We're just working out the kinks with that.
Oh my gosh, we will definitely be, I already know I'm going to see you again. I'm going to tell Tim, and he's going to be like, yep, let's do it.
It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be so much fun because it's fun. You know, we as we get older, as we become adults and life hits us, we stop having fun.
Which is so sad.
Yeah. Like, we have fun, we go out with our friends, but like, then we're back to serious mode. It's just like, you know, we're our most creative when we are enjoying ourselves, when we are having fun.
Yeah, finding that joy every day. It's like if you can find that like peace within yourself, I feel like to do that, that's got to be like one of those keys to life, right? Like if you could figure out that like every single day to just feel joy. I actually think you touched on it before. I think waking up and being able to find gratitude every day, I think is a really good place to start for that. I know for me, that's always, if I'm feeling down or like if I'm having a rough day, if I can get myself back to that place of gratitude, that's usually how it turns around again. Breaks that cycle of nasty, negative thoughts.
What I keep in mind is what I told you before. It is literally a moment in time.
Yeah.
It's literally a moment in time. And just like every moment in time and every obstacle that have come, they have also gone. So everything comes and goes. And and the best thing to do when you are struggling through these times is grow from these, because it's not that they don't come back. It's because the reason why they become easier, or the reason why we don't notice them as often, is because we've grown through them. The reason why 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds are different from 20-year-olds, because we've grown past our 20s. And we've adapted. So it's the same thing with life. We take these moments and take the moments, don't exaggerate them. Let the moment be what it is. And then continue to move forward, because it only helps you to grow.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right. You said like it's kind of, going back to failure like that. Once you've been kicked in the knees once, the next time getting up is a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Or like you're like, okay, but sometimes you get punched in the gut, like, or whatever. Like it's a different.
And I'm not saying it's easy. Trust me.
No.
I go through these moments where I'm just like, and I have to, and for me, I have to write it out.
Yeah.
Because once I start writing it, because now it's no longer in my head.
Sure.
When you keep things in your head, that means that you keep thinking about it.
Yeah, you can siphon it out of your body with
Exactly. Exactly. So now it's just like, you know what, I'm going to write this out and I'm going to forget about it because it's over.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I feel like we didn't touch on this yet, but I'm going to keep you here all day. You're going to be here with me all day. We're going to move our next interview. We're just going to sit here all day. One more thing though, and then I will let you go.
You're fine.
I was chatting with Kathy, the photographer that's helping us out for people who are listening, and Kathy Berry, Beaumont Photography,
Yeah,
shout it out.
Yes.
So she was saying that you are also into the metaphysical and like studying that and natural kind of ingredients with your cooking and that kind of thing. And I feel like we didn't touch on that yet, but I feel like that's really important because it's kind of core probably. I don't want to make an assumption, but that seems pretty core, especially now having talked to you with how you kind of view the world and approach your work and your life. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into that and also how that's helped to kind of shape what you're doing?
So metaphysics, I've always, since I was young, I just didn't know there was a name for it until like later in life.
Sure.
To me, it was just spirituality, but metaphysics
Connection.
is honestly it's philosophy, it's philosophy. But when it comes to, even with food, well, I got into metaphysics. I started this degree because I didn't know you can get a degree in it. And once I found out you could, I said, oh, I'm going to do that and I'm going to pay for it, because if I pay for it, then that means that I'm not going to waste it.
Yeah. Like you're going to show up because you had to pay money to do it.
Exactly. It's an investment,
Yeah.
So, but it was just, it like I said, it was always interesting to me. The philosophy of metaphysics was just very interesting to me, and not just metaphysics, quantum physics as well, and energy, and how we use energy that we create, because we are electromagnetic beings, So how do we project our energy, and how do we receive energy, and what energy do we accept?
Yeah.
And it does also involve food, there are certain foods that help keep you at a frequency. Then there are low frequency foods and high frequency foods.
That's cool.
So
do you keep that in mind when you're creating dishes?
Well, when I cook for my clients, I just want to make sure that when I'm giving them, it's going to feed their bodies. Like, I was one client, I would make juice for them every single day.
Okay.
And I always put ginger and turmeric because they're anti-inflammatory and it helps
turmeric.
with gut. But also it helps your body. Food is medicine.
Yeah.
Food is medicine.
right
When
food.
you're cooking for it's the right food. And when you're cooking for athletes, you want to make sure that my athletes were football players. I still cook for football players, but also cook for, NBA players, basketball players, and now last year I started branching out to cooking for producers and singers and stuff.
Wow.
So it's like, but when I started, it was football players, and my goal was to make sure that their body would heal faster, and because they're
So you're
constantly
really
getting hit.
approaching that from like a scientific point of view. Then it's not just about there is of course that creative aspect, but in like the way that you're describing it, it's like you figured out a way to put science, creativity together to make this dish that's not only delicious, but it's actually helping them perform better at what they do.
Yes.
So man, Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman. Give this lady a cape. Please, somebody. Oh my gosh.
No, it works. It helps, and they appreciate it. One of my clients said, "Chef, you don't never get sick. What do you do?" So I made him a tea I said I drink tea, and I made him a tea every morning. I make my own tea, get my own herbs, make my tea. And I would make sea moss, and I would make his tea concoction in the morning, so that he won't get sick.
And he's like healthy as can be now.
So
Oh my gosh, helping one person at a time. Just science and chef, like right here. Oh my gosh.
Now I'm a certified. I got my certification in herbal medicine and in nutrition.
In your spare time, in your spare time that you somehow made. Oh my gosh. I feel like the more I talk to you, I'm like, what else has she done? I'm like, what are we? I mean, we've only been here like an hour, but I feel like the more I talk to you, there's more. And so, oh my gosh. Well, you owe me one more artist. Can you think of one?
All right, another artist that's not in the city, that's not in this or another.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, but like we try to do one in Philly, one outside the city, because the plan is to travel to different cities, talk to artists everywhere. So arts, creators, makers.
Okay. So I have a friend, Chef West. Where is West at? I forget what city he's in. But he's a great chef. He's an amazing chef. Right now, what he does, well, one of the things that he does, I'm not saying what he does, because he also is not just at one particular thing. He's very creative.
As most creators are, I'm finding.
But he does a lot of videos on restaurants. He'll read bad reviews about restaurants, and then he'll go to that restaurant and order the food that the review was on, and then, share
Give it a real review.
Yes. So Chef Wes Lieberher, he is he's a chef out of the state that I think is very interesting, and I think that, would be great to interview.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with me today and giving us the opportunity to see a space that you're working in now and just being so thoughtful. It's really appreciated. So I can't wait to see what's next for you, honestly.
I can't wait to see. I don't even know what's next. I'm excited. I'm just like, hey.
You're like, bring it.
I'm not even trying to predict. I'm just like, what? I'm just going to do what I do and then let everything unfold in front of me. And, yeah.
Well, only good things coming. I know it. So,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. That was so much fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
If you were following along and counted up my questions, head over to TikTok at the Artist10 Podcast and comment how many you think I got. I will not guarantee there'll be 10, but we will follow this week with a total. And if you're an artist, designer, or creative, please leave us a question in the same comment and we'll pick a few to read and answer on the show next time. And that's a wrap. No worries though, we will return with more inspo, know-how, and creative collabs for your hearing pleasure. In the meantime, tag along with us on Instagram at Heart House Creative or TikTok at the Artist10 Podcast. And do us and you a favor by clicking that follow button to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you feed your brain from. Till next time, I'm Jen Hart. Keep creating, artists. This episode of the Artist10 Podcast was recorded in Swathmore, near Philadelphia, PA, at the Swathmore College Test Kitchen and Dining Hall. Big thanks to Executive Chef Tom Ramsey and Chef Aziza Young for sharing the space with us. The show was produced by Heart House Creative. Photo and video content was captured by one of our fave Philly photogs, Kathy Berry of Beaumont Originals, at Beaumont Originals on Instagram. Learn more about this episode's featured artist, Chef Aziza Young, by visiting at Chef Zigga, that's Chef Zigga, on Instagram, or you can also follow Chef Z's work at indiechefs.com/contents/Aziza-Young.